Fans, welcome to this week's Sports Chat. A little bit to talk about. Locally, right now, as we shoot, there's a track meet going on in Anderson County. We're about to head to some softball and baseball.
Really active track week so far. I think this is their this is their third meet since Saturday. They had a really good meet Saturday at Hardin Valley. They had a good meet last night at Carnes, and I believe.
And they've got the CRA relays this weekend.
I believe last night at Carnes, the boys actually won the meet at Carnes last night.
Well, I'll actually have that story up tomorrow.
The girls won the meet at Carnes, and the boys finished second. And Coach Sutphin, gifted with a lot of great track athletes this year, and they're really pouring it on.
Yeah, Gavin Cooper, just a freshman, is dominating in the distance for the boys.
I mean, Gracie Faulkner's a sophomore. She's doing well in the distance for the girls. Bryce Dossett doing really well as a sophomore in the girls' sprint races.
Her brother Dakota's a senior, and saw in the News Sentinel today where he was one of the top 5 at Campbell County High School, along with 3 Lady Cougars in Brooke Bain, Olivia Brown, and Michaela Smith.
He's doing great. Lindsey King does well in the 300s. Just a lot of good Cougar out there. You got the throwing events. Got Rains. He's winning some throwing events. And
Lettner's winning some throwing events.
Winning some shot put events as well. And Rains is more the discus guy. Rains has really great discus for him. It's a good team this year, and Billy Ann and Ann Browning, they built up a pretty good track.
They left the cabinet well stocked for Sutphin and Faust.
Yeah, they've got a lot of good athletes. The soccer team, as we've noted, is rolling this year. Again, I mean, last year I think they finished 9-1.
And it's looking like they could potentially finish 8-1-1 this year.
They're having a lot of good, high scoring, soccer. You really need some goals to be scored to keep soccer interesting for the whole 60 minutes for most people. And this Cougar team scores the goals. I mean, they're scoring 7, 8 goals a game.
They tied a really strong Anderson County program. Yeah. A program that's well established.
Now, this is Cougars only their second year, and it's a new coach, Daniel Lasley. He's got them continuing right off where Shane left off.
Daniel's Daniel coached the middle school soccer team, so he knows these kids.
Yeah, I mean,
and Daniel he's a really good coach anyway. He coaches the other football as well as soccer. He coaches American football and soccer.
Shane told us he would like to get the program established, and then he would hand it off to someone else, and that's what Shane has managed to do. And hats off to Coach Wolfenbarger and now Coach Lasley for taking over and keeping it rolling. It's hard to beat. Baseball Cougars, between rainouts, have been playing pretty well, but the baseball and softball program have been struggling. I mean, we were talking to Coach Mongar from the softball team yesterday, and she's used up all of her potential rescheduling dates. Any rain out from here on out, it's going to be a canceled game for the Cougars.
She said that next week they were playing 6 of the 7 days.
2 weeks in a row they're playing 6 of the 7 days. And the bad thing about it is these last few rain systems have pretty much been from Campbell County and east and north, and not so much rain down south of us. And that's maybe going to affect the Cougars at some point if they have blanks in their schedule where they didn't get a potential chance for a win where other teams did. I'm not sure how they worked that out.
Well, and she already talked about, district tournaments not that far away, and they're looking at the play-in game.
Yeah, so just the entire month of April, the next 18, 19 days of it, pretty much going to be softball and baseball field because of making up for those rainouts. And
talked to JT yesterday. The middle school team has only played. This will be their 4th game today that we're getting ready to go to.
Yeah, I mean this has been tough.
Good talent.
Tough year. I mean, it's been a tough.
Bad weather.
Tough on spring sports with all the. I mean, it's tough on basketball season with a lot of cancellations for school right around the time the district tournament was starting, and now spring sports have really been. They've not got much practice in. It snowed and iced all spring, winter into early spring, and then just it warmed up some, but the precipitation hasn't stopped. And you can do something. You can play a soccer in the rain. You can do track in the rain, but it's hard to do baseball and softball in the rain because of just the mud and sloggy fields you get. And that's not even counting thunder. All are canceled when thunderstorms happen, but those two are the ones that particularly suffer with it. And like I said, they may have some cancellations. We'll have to see. That's about it for Cougar athletics up there, though. I mean, that is the spring sports, and like we said, they're pretty good progress on every front. A lot of new coaches. I mean, with 3 of the 4 major of the spring sports have new coaches.
Right, and of course, in Mays is an old hat. He's been here before, so he knew the baseball program well.
Yeah, he kept the assistants on, and that he is familiar with the program. But they still a new coach up there, and they're all doing well. I mean, it's pretty good news for Cougar Spring Sports.
Rebecca Mongar is the elder statesman of the spring coaching staff.
So she's got the Lady Cougars playing pretty well in softball. They're scoring some runs this year. They're getting some wins.
They've probably won more this year already than they have in the last couple.
Tennis also has been suffering from the rainouts, and of course tennis has a new coach as well, in Catherine Ayers.
Tennis actually may have suffered more than any of them.
Tennis, you just don't. You not only can't play in the rain on a tennis court, you often can't play
on a wet court.
If it stopped raining, a few hours beforehand, the dirt will soak it up. The court will just stand in water. So they've also had trouble. And they always have issues with getting home tennis matches anyway. We've pointed out many times the lack of home facilities for the Cougars. There's not a tennis court in town that has more than a couple of courts at it, 3 courts at the most.
And they're taking some courts out at the rec center to put in a skate park.
You essentially have to have 5 courts, if not 6, to be able to host consistently. And so the Cougars have to play most of their matches on the road. They got Cumberland Gap to come down here, but
Jellicoe's coming down.
Not many people are willing to split their team up, as we've pointed out. So hopefully the school board or whomever has to do it can start looking into grants. And I know you can get USTA grants for fencing and things like that paid for, which is a pretty big chunk of your expense paid for. And get some really high quality actual, tennis surface courts put in, not like the concrete courts at Whitebridge, which are just unusable. You can't play on concrete.
They're terrible on your ankles.
For competition level, you have to have the asphalt or the hard court surface done properly. And with luck, those will eventually come here. Tennis is the only sport, as we've pointed out, that you could play at home that doesn't have a home court. I mean, golf obviously is always going to be out of the course somewhere, but every other sport, we have a soccer field, we have a baseball field. Soccer got a field immediately, and I had to play just part of one season up there behind the East Fall.
The girls' season had to play up there while they were working on the field, basically.
Everything else has its own course. So it's time for the tennis to get there. The tennis, I don't know how long tennis has been a sport up there. It was a sport when I was there 20 years
Tennis has been there since the school opened.
So 35 years of tennis and no courts is pretty much time to get something.
Yeah. It's time to get those. It's time to get a scoring system for the track team.
Yeah, it would be nice to get electronic scoring. They could host more meets that way. And the meets would be official. It'd be nice to see, somebody set a state qualifying time actually at home and be able to host a couple of meets, host some invitationals. As it is now, you don't get that because, I can't even imagine the electronic scoring system would cost that much.
$10,000.
So you need to get that, and honestly, a new scoreboard for the basketball gym too wouldn't hurt, since it's the same ones that have been there for 25 or 30 years as well. But hopefully all those things come to pass eventually.
And we've had some good facilities improvement, especially football-wise in the film room. And
well, they redid the lighting and stuff in the gym, which was nice. But I said the scoreboard, you can't hardly read the scores anymore because of so many lights being out on it. So it just needs to change. 30, 35-year-old stuff. It's time to update a lot of things up there. And I know the money's tight, but you got to come through with it at some point because it's going to affect generations and generations of children. Thousands of kids up there. There's 1,000 kids, 1,200 kids up there at any given time, and that's another 1,000 kids to cycle through every 4 years. So, you're talking about affecting tens of thousands of Campbell County kids over the course of 20 years or so, like that. Which I can't imagine school will last much longer than 20 more years.
Oh no, well they'll have to build a new school.
But hopefully that gets done, gets taken care of. That would be nice. On national front, Kentucky lost.
That's what's important.
That was the most important, pressing national sporting news. They lost.
7 McDonald's All-Americans, 0 national title.
Well, they had 9 McDonald's All-Americans.
7 are leaving.
7 who have declared, as of today, declared for the draft. And I really think Calipari pretty much told the Harrison twins they weren't welcome back because they're going to be second rounders if they get drafted at all. In most things, Calipari's selling this line of bull crap that they're going to be high first round picks. They're not. And some articles have come out recently. I saw one the other day, and the guy was suggesting in the article that he's heard that Calipari pretty much told him, no, you're not coming back. You need to go. You need to be gone. because Calipari, he wants to just cycle those scholarships every year with his new batch of one and dones that are going to be better than this batch of one and dones. But we know that's not going to happen. Anthony Davis was probably the best individual college player since Carmelo Anthony. I mean, he's a big man. He's dominating in the NBA right now. He played great defense. Couldn't stop him.
He can move really well for a big man.
I mean, that's what it took for Calipari to win the national championship. Pretty much a generational player. He doesn't just have to have the most talent. He has to have a generational player to win that title. And without Anthony Davis, he's probably going to. He definitely has the least amount of titles per draft picks that anybody I can think of, especially if 7 get drafted this year. I don't think 7 will. I think at least one of the Harrison Wentz probably won't get drafted.
And he's living in a world in the SEC now where he's apt to get out coached.
Oh, he's going to get out coached a lot. I mean, he gets out coached there. He just out talents people. Florida had a down year, which Billy Donovan's a much better coach. Billy Donovan, the NBA rumors, I've not really saw anything more come of those, but we'll see what happens there. But I mean, Barnes is a good coach.
Avery Johnson's a good coach.
Avery Johnson's a pretty good coach for Alabama. We'll see what he does. Hopefully, he's like every other Alabama coach and does nothing there.
Of course, you got Pearl at Auburn.
And Pearl's a far better coach than Calipari. Pretty much dominated in so much in Memphis that Calipari wanted to cancel the series with Tennessee. And it's just, there are a lot of good coaches, and there are a lot better coaches all of a sudden in the SEC. Mississippi State upgraded the coach with Ben Howland. Pretty much upgrades in at least 5 or 6 teams. Calipari's got to have he will still have a major talent advantage. He's got the projected number 1 NBA draft pick, of course, for next season, committed, and Scal Lasherby, who's from Tennessee, but not really. He's an exchange student that lives in Tennessee. Lots of smoke about his recruiting earlier in the year, about some questionable tactics that his well, for lack of a better word, his handler, the person he's living with, was said to be shopping him around to everybody. He shopped around school. I'm not even sure how he graduated high school, because he had dropped out of 3 high schools in 2 years. And
obviously he's not a traditional exchange student.
No, it's one of those guys I'm pretty sure he's from somewhere in Africa. But
I mean, we're familiar with the exchange student program. He's not through CIE.
He's a big 6'11" center though, and pretty reported to be very skilled. And those 6'11" guys are always going to go high in the draft, but he's not probably Karl Anthony Towns level, and that's going to hurt because Karl Anthony Towns was a very, very good player. He won the National Player of the Year. And I don't think right now, it doesn't look like any of the one and dones he's going to bring in next year are going to be that. I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, Kentucky's picked number 1 or number 2 in most polls already. I could see them having another year where they go to the NIT again if things just slip a little bit for them. Because Cal is the only person I've ever saw take 6 NBA draft picks to the NIT. Like he did a couple.
That was impressive.
But
and lose. Take 6 picks to the NIT and lose.
He got out-coached pretty severely against Wisconsin. And Wisconsin had a good, talented team, though. Don't doubt that. But Cal just panicked in the last 5 minutes. I saw him do that against Kansas in Memphis a few years ago in the Final Four. He just panicked. He doesn't know what to do. I mean, there was reports his guys on the bench didn't know what to do, and he was telling them to do things, and they weren't doing it, and he wasn't calling timeouts in that last 5 minutes. And they had 3 straight possessions where they had a shot clock violation. And a lot of Kentucky fans, because Kentucky fans are complainers. They're terrible people usually, as a general rule. And they complain about everything. They were complaining about the shot clock violation that Wisconsin had, and they did. Wisconsin had a shot clock violation and got away with it. But the play before that, a Kentucky player literally hit somebody in the face. And it was didn't even get a call to foul on it. They didn't even call it. It would normally be a flagrant 2 that would have gotten you thrown out of the game. But he didn't even get a foul call on it. So, if that flagrant gets called correctly, he's out of the game. I think it's one of the Harrison brothers that did it. Wisconsin gets 2 free throws and the basketball. And that shot clock thing's not that big of an issue. But, Kentucky lost to Colorado. They can't stand the game where they get outshot at the free throw line. It almost never happens. But if you watch the game, Kentucky ran the shot clock down to 3 seconds to go constantly and then checked up a 30-footer. That was what Cal did. That's exactly what they did when they lost to West Virginia a few years ago when they went 3 for 34 from 3-point in the second half. Just run the shot clock down and jack one up from 25 feet. He's good at getting talent. He's good at violating NCAA rules and not being attached to the violation. I mean, it kills the school when he leaves. But he's good at avoiding that connection with him. He has the go-between guy and William Wesley and a few other guys for him. Like William Wesley paid for Derrick Rose to go and take the test, which, you know, he had someone else take the test for Derrick Rose. It just happened. I mean, of course, they deny that William Wesley was involved in it. But Derrick Rose was from Chicago. William Wesley lived in Detroit. For some reason, Derrick Rose was flying to Detroit to take his SAT test. And it just so happened that he didn't fly to Detroit. Just another guy showed up and claimed to be Derrick Rose in Detroit. I'm sure Wesley had nothing to do with it.
Seems legit.
But yeah, of course, that burned Memphis's program to the ground. But there was no direct tie to Cal, so he's still doing fine.
And UMass is still smoking ruin.
UMass never recovered from Cal's fiasco with Canby, where Canby was getting paid, but of course Cal didn't know. Nowadays, that doesn't fly anymore. That will never fly again. The NCAA is supposedly attached. Of course, they let people buy with slaps on the wrist unless you're Donnie Tyndall or Bruce Pearl. They've attached just the coach should know what's going on rule, basically. And that's what got that stiff, 9-game suspension for Jim Boeheim on his 9 years of cheating. And granted,
It's their game of year, man.
They've won a national championship and been to the Final Four and stuff during their cheating era, but yeah, whatever. But that's pretty much it for sports until spring practice starts.
Right. We'll have some more Cougar sports next week.
There's a bit of spring practice at UT, but it's not into the meat of it yet. Somebody did pick UT to win the national championship next year, which is
that seems legit.
it's a little overly ambitious. So I don't think
Dylan Bates could have the best year middle linebacker of all time to win us a national title.
It may happen. I will have to see Josh Dobbs improve a lot throwing the ball, as I've said before I believe that UT has a shot of being an SEC East champion, let alone a national champion. But that should be it. Thank you to Jason here at Jason's video, and to Papa John's for providing us pizza and foods, and Jason for providing us space and all these great movies and this basketball shooting machine.
Oh yeah, we should probably have a basketball shooting contest.
We probably should. If you want to come down a challenge pad to a basketball shooting contest some week, just let us know, and
we'll be here.
We'll give you a prize if you can beat him. I say what that prize is, but
it'll be a prize.
Involves something nice.
Fans, we will see you next week.